Hello there guys, it's Ebird Online and I'm back with another video. So today's video is going to be something a little bit different. This is basically a message to TLC. So I have 3 messages I think for TLC, 3 core messages. Number 1, stop taking us for fools. Number 2, the truth is quite often far more entertaining than a blatant souped up lie. And number 3 is a little bit of gestalt theory for those who are interested. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and I can actually hear your brains ticking thinking, what's this all about? I'm talking about Colt and Larissa. So before I start, I just very quickly want to say thank you to everyone that's subscribed thus far. If you haven't, press the red button, make Ebird a very happy Ebird, bring her back in off the ledge, and whilst you're subscribing, I'm going to tell TLC a few home truths. So as many of you know, I hadn't seen or followed the story of Colt and Larissa before this season. I went back and did my due diligence. And I of course discovered they were a very interesting duo, or we can even say trio, if we count Colt's boobs that is. And then also there was Debbie. Yep, still childish as ever. So these two met and lied and fought and married and divorced, all in the space of about a year. They were very explosive. Larissa was flighty and entitled. Colt was a scheming, crafty and manipulative liar. And they lived in Las Vegas with Colt's mum, and she was prying, nosy and calculative. She didn't like Larissa, and in fact I don't think she would have liked anyone her son decided to go out with. Also Colt's cousin John also didn't like Larissa. He labelled her a gold digger. Larissa, the gold's on the right over at the end of the rainbow. This couple took over all headlines and everybody was obsessed with them for the season. And of course, as we all know, the police were involved. There were several instances of domestic violence. And Larissa was arrested on 3 separate occasions. And of course, these weren't televised, so we don't know if Colt and Debbie manipulated the situation or how it all went down. But it was still definitely a very interesting story. But most of all, it was a real story. Larissa really was in love with the idea of getting a green card. And Colt really was in love with the idea of having a hot, fiery Latina to cater to his sexual needs. And I'm reliably informed they're quite substantial. So 5 gold stars to TLC, you found us a fantastic couple, they were interesting, they were engaging. It was one for the blogs. Well, I'm not quite sure where wisdom and intelligence ended and laziness started, but it sure did, because TLC decided we liked Colt and Larissa, they're now no longer together. I know, less fake relationships for both of them to be in, so we can follow them both yet again on the next series. TLC, what the hell for? That could never ever work. The first reason being, neither one of them is a good enough actor to convince us that the person that they're allegedly in love with is anything like a real relationship. Secondly, your script writers and your plot writers lack the basic talent to write an acceptable, credible plot, or in fact, even a barely believable plot. And so what are we left with? 1/3 of the people on Happily Ever After this season are not in relationships. So you remember back at the top of the video I said the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And it's never been truer than in this situation. Larissa needs a fop, a foil, an idiot, some sort of semi-loser to make her flighty ridiculousness seem palatable. So in Colt we had someone who we thought was so desperate he'd put up with the ridiculous assertions of Larissa. Colty, buy a big carry. Colty, buy a penthousey. It was believable. Because Colt was punching way above his weight. And on the flip side, Larissa's a 32-year-old mother of 2, without any visible means of support, with a penchant for nice clothes and plastic surgery. In order to achieve and maintain what she wants in life, she would need a Colt. She would need someone who was into her like that. Colt, for want of a better word, I think is probably a sex pest. And to quench his insatiable needs, he'd need to go outside of the United States of America. Because most girls don't like dating guys with bigger breasts than them. As a couple, even as flawed as they were, it worked, we understood them. And in turn we also understood that Debbie was far too close to her son, and that she was very controlling. And low-key, it was kind of fun seeing Debbie manipulate Larissa and Colt and create problems and arguments amongst them. And let's not forget it was Debbie that absolutely wound Colt's cousin John up, to such an extent that when he finally came over for that barbecue, he basically exploded as soon as he walked through the door. That was classic Deb. Though at the time we hated her for it, everybody loves to hate a villain. So this week we have 2 stories and they're both equally as stupid as the other. The The first one is Larissa. Apparently, Eric's going to pay for a boob job for her. Larissa, newsflash, we're not even sure that Eric's straight. He couldn't care less about you or your boobs. That's extremely clear. 2. He doesn't have £14,000 stashed away. That's why he's skulking around trying to get a check from TLC. You have no sexual chemistry. And if there's one thing I know about Larissa, Larissa would have her game on about getting married again. And Eric does not look like the kind of guy to do it. They really are scratching around for a storyline. And over at Shea Colt, we have Colt and Jess. Although Jess hates Debbie and Debbie hates Jess, Colt still thinks that he wants to invite Jess over, because apparently he's in love. Try acting like it, Colt. But he tells us he's lied to her yet again. He's been talking to other women on the internet when they'd broken up. Broken up? You were fine when you left Brazil. Oh no, apparently on the phone. They've had loads of arguments. They argue every day apparently, and they've broken up several times. And it puts me in mind of Avery and Ash. We split up 3 times. You cannot split up with somebody when you are not going out with them. It's not possible. And then there's the other big bit of news, and that is of course that Vanessa is living with them. Oh TLC, just try and get the storyline straight a little bit. Debbie and Colt rent a 2-bedroom house. Where is Vanessa staying? That's one. 2. Why was there the big hoo-ha about, ooh, is Vanessa looking after the cats? How are the cats? How's Vanessa? If she lived there, she'd be with them all along, so there wouldn't have been a reason to make this point. And finally, when she came over to eat Debbie's grey steak, she knocked on the door, and they said welcome. What, so she'd just walked down from the attic, had she? And so that whole storyline is of course completely and utterly ridiculous. The only reason that Colt has had to cultivate all of these things that Jess might be upset about is because he wants again the public sympathy. He wants to make it 100% sure that Jess falls out with him, that Jess finishes with him, and then he can play heartbroken Colt, knowing that he's told so many lies no normal or sane girl would still be with him. So finally there's the consistent breaking of the fourth wall by TLC. So for anybody that doesn't know, the fourth wall's like a barrier between the TV show and the audience. So it separates the real world from the fictional world. And so if that's broken, the characters or the producers acknowledge that they're in a reality TV show. And so on this show, it's quite regularly broken because we hear producers asking things in the confessionals, but also in certain shots we've seen producers, especially if it's become violent or massively heated, we can see camera crew, we can see producers. They still keep that in the final edit. But with this particular storyline, Colt consistently says things like, if Jessica ever found out that I still speak to Vanessa, it would be over. Well, she will find out because she'll be watching the show. She will find out that you had a previous sexual relationship with Vanessa. She'll watch the show. She will find out that the only reason you moved on was because Vanessa was no longer interested. She will find out all these things because they're on the show. If this was your actual girlfriend or somebody that you genuinely wanted to marry, that would never have been said. So it's basic tomfoolery. So the fourth wall is being broken in a really strange way by Colt and TLC, and in a way that it wasn't within his first relationship. Well, let's cast our minds back. It wasn't broken when Larissa apparently committed domestic violence against Colt a few days before their wedding. It was quickly spoken about and brushed under the carpet so that we could all focus on the dress that Colt got her from Goodwill and the wedding with 3 or 4 people. But with Jess, it seems Colt has no such scruples. Colt's quite happy to throw Jess under the bus in all manner of ways, knowing that as soon as this airs, Jess will be watching, so he doesn't intend for any of this to be long term. It's completely ridiculous. And so that's about it, rant over. What I'd like to know from you guys is, do you agree? Do you think that Colt and Larissa were great together? Great TV, should I say, together? But TLC's insistence on trying to keep old characters, even though they've split up, ruins the show. It ruins opportunities for other people that could get onto the show. And it takes us all for mugs. I think they're turning more people off than they are turning people on with these ridiculous storylines. And on that note, I bid you good day. So please put your comments down below and let me know what you think. Is it just me who's ticked off by this? Or is it getting worse and worse? And I'll be back tomorrow with, guess what? Unpopular opinions. Yay! And guys, I almost forgot. I've been doing a little bit of research and I just always wondered, why does Larissa say Eriki Goldi? Look at this, look and listen.
Eric. Eric. Eric, 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 Eric.
That's how it actually sounds in Portuguese on Google Translate. And I think we have to collectively realise that we all owe Larissa a massive, massive apology. And Google Translate, get your wish together. Thank you so much guys for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe and like and share. And follow me on Twitter at Ebird99. You've been listening to Ebird Online. Ciao for now.